Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Mandy, and today I'm going to paint this with you. So this is a really cute shelf sitter that has a place for tea light candles. Obviously you wouldn't use flammable ones. And so this was cut with the laser, and I dry fit it together so you can kind of see what it looks like. And then I'm going to paint it with you. Some parts I'm going to have to speed way up because obviously it's going to take a little bit of time. But what's really cool about this is one of the files that I can actually cut wood blanks for you. So if you are interested in this and you want to purchase the blanks and paint it yourself, basically the way I'm disassembling it, it would come to you like that, and you would paint it and assemble it. And the fun thing is, if you just want to put this up during Christmas or during like the winter season, you can disassemble it and put it away when you're not using it. So that's what's kind of cool. So one thing to note is the way that this is cut. I learned this the hard way. You want to avoid painting the little slats that, because it can make your wood too thick to fit into those little slats. Now I can adjust them and make them bigger, but I find that they fit perfectly the way they're cut. But I made the mistake of just fully painting them, and I was still able to use them. I just sanded down the edges a little bit. So the the bottom, like basically the bottom of this, like the little stands and where the votives would go, we're going to paint white. Chalk paint, of course, would work great, but I'm just using some Artist Loft white because I have some. I think I really prefer the Craft Smart white paint for the coverage that it gives, but I have a bunch of bottles of the Artist Loft that I bought back in the day, and they need to be used. So I basically am just getting a little bit of paint on that roller sponge. You don't want too much because then it's going to seep over the sides and get into those little crevices. And again, we don't want to mess up how it fits. So it's better to do a couple of light coats than to just overload your roller. So I'm going to speed this part up because obviously this part's kind of boring. And because of all the moving parts and me kind of figuring this out, this video may be a little bit long, so just fair warning. So once we have this together, we're just going to set it to the side. So the little snowmen and the little snow fence looking thing are also going to be white. So here's the trick. We have some places on here that are scored or engraved. You don't want to get white paint in that. So what I like to do is just get so very little paint on your roller, and don't put any pressure on those places. I'm like making myself nervous just watching it. You can also paint those places with a makeup sponge, just so that you have a little bit more control over how much paint is on there. But you see how we're kind of keeping the engrave and the scoring. The trick is really just so very little paint on the roller, and of course keeping like no pressure. I mean, you're just gliding the paint over the top. So I find it is a little bit easier to do that with a makeup sponge than a roller because there can be more paint on your roller than you realize. But I was trying to be efficient at this point. I had just painted the bottom, and I just wanted to paint using the leftover paint that I had left. Now some of these are just score marks so that I can know where to place things later, but some of them are actually decorative, and we're going to need them to show. So anyway, these are super cute. This is a design from Sawdust Makery, and this is actually a VIP or a Christmas Club file. So unless you're in the Christmas Club, you can't purchase this, I think, for another year. But this is a super cute file. And so there's also some snowman ornaments. You can see I messed up right there. There's some snowman ornaments that I will also have the ability to do. I don't know if I videoed them entirely, but I can also do those as blanks. And then there's a really cute snowman door hanger that I will be hopefully doing a video. I've got some of it painted, but this took me a little bit of time. So anyway, super cute. And in the end of this video, I'll actually show it to you put together with the tea lights in it so you can see how adorable it is. So after we've got the white on the snowmen, we're going to put those to the side. Obviously, the first time you would do these, it's always going to take longer because you're kind of figuring out the order and all of that stuff. So I'll try to speed things up along the way. What I find helpful if you accidentally do get paint in like the engraved area is just to get something kind of sharp and kind of scrape it out right away. Like I have a weeding tool for my Cricut in here and I use it all the time for stuff like that. But sometimes if you blot it really quick, you can get it out. So this is another one of the snowmen. I'll speed this part up for you. It's very cute, the little hat. And then, so for the snow, again, I would recommend that you only paint the top part, not the little slats. I painted both sides of it, and I painted the slats on both sides, and it made it really difficult to fit. So, you know, hindsight's 20/20. If you were to just not paint those and leave them bare, that's definitely going to be better for you. I like to try to paint everything I can with the color I have out. I just think it saves a lot of time, so I try to group things by color and just knock it out all at once. So after the first coat dried, I just gently put another coat on there to make sure we had decent coverage. I don't necessarily need them to be perfectly white because I'm going to distress them a little bit anyway. You can see I got carried away and distracted and painted my star or my snowflake. And so at this point, now we're just going to start messing with our little pieces with the leftover paint that are also white. So we've got our tree snow caps, we've got our Santa hat snow caps, we've got some of our snowflakes. So one little trick is either put some double-sided tape down or fold over some like painter's tape or something, just to kind of keep your small pieces together, and just tack them down, and then you can go over them with the roller. You can also do these small pieces with like a makeup sponge that you just dab it on. It just depends on, you know, how much are you producing at one time. There was a bunch of these little pieces that were white, so it made sense to just kind of do them in one fell swoop. And it actually looks like I do end up using a small makeup sponge. So these, I got these makeup sponges at Walmart, but you can get them at Amazon. And they're great because you can control how much paint. You just get a little bit of paint on there. You dab them. As you can see, I'm just rotating pieces in and out. They're great for small pieces. One trick I learned from the designer of this file, because she does great tutorials in her Facebook groups, is just cut off the edge that you're not using. When you finish, just don't throw it away, cut it off. So so this is our backer. So this color I custom made using titanium white and a purely pigment turquoise color. I'm having a brain fart on which one it is. Vibrant aqua. And so I made that very muted color. I also added a little bit of hickory in there, which gave it a little bit more of a green tinge. So the reason I did that is because the wonderful designer of this file gives you kind of the colors that she uses from Deco Art. Well, I have so much paint that I figured I can probably make that turquoise color rather than buying a different color. But the beautiful thing about this, if you decide that you want to buy the blanks, is I can give you the colors that she uses. And if you don't have the paint color, you can easily get some craft paint and it'll be perfect for what you need. But if you're like me and you have a lot of paint, you can always make colors if you don't have the exact shade that you're looking for. It's just a little bit of trial and error. And I use a color like this pretty often in some of the colors that I do, and like door hangers and ornaments and stuff. So to me, it made perfect sense to make it. I have white paint, I have the colors. I have bought some of the Deco Art paints, and they're perfect for this. They have really good coverage for craft paint. So, you know, either way you decide to go. But as you can see, I'm just lightly putting on the color so that I don't overload my roller. And then I'll go in and do another coat. The bottle that you saw that I put the paint in is an empty honey bottle, and they work great for mixing paint. So I'm going to eventually try to list all this stuff in my Amazon shop. But I'll speed this up. This is the backer, and we're going to paint the trees, put the snowflake on there. I did try a technique I've seen her do with an angled brush, and I was kind of terrible at it. So I may cut that out of this video. If you don't want to try to like distress things with a brush, like if you don't want to try to do shadow painting with a brush, you can easily distress things using like distressing ink pads, and using a little dauber. And I find that to be a lot easier and faster. But it is fun to try new things, right? And to use different things. So I don't know if I will share that fail with you because it makes this video so long, but I do end up just getting an ink pad and dauber and doing it, and it's fine. It worked out fine. But she does it with paint, and it turns out great, and I will try. I don't think I have the right brush for it. But anyway, let me speed this up. So as you can see, we're just adding more paint color. You could put a lot more on at one time, but I find this is just a lot cleaner. So now we've got the background done. We'll work on the trees and the snowman next. Okay, so I spared you the effort I made to try to distress that with the paintbrush. Just know I used an ink pad. So this color, this green color, I used instead of the Hauser green medium. I made this using titanium white and hickory from Purely Pigments mostly, and then I added in, I think I used some Artist Loft green because I have like a liter of it, so that's kind of crazy. And so I basically just kept mixing greens until I got kind of the color I was looking for. So I'm just painting this tree using the makeup sponge. The tree trunk, I actually used a paint pen on, but you could use pretty much any brown paint. A paint pen just seemed easier to me at the time. I don't think I've painted it yet. And so the trees are, I think 2 of them are the darker green, or one of them is a darker green. 2 are a lighter green. So I mixed a lighter green instead of the Hauser green light that she used, which is a Deco Art color. So it's just, I think I used the hickory, the white, sap green, and a little bit of sour apple. I just kept mixing until I got what I wanted. And then the gray color, I just mixed black and white. You can also buy a gray color. So that's kind of the cool thing. If you already have a lot of paint, you can just mix your own. And you can make smaller bottles of it too. So I'm just lightly going over this, and then I'll hit it with another coat and then get the gray trees. So I'll speed this part up. And so again, this is where just a little paint at a time. You can see where I messed this up, this backer, trying to use the paintbrush. So I just hit it again with a roller, went over that space where I had failed miserably. And then I just used the distressing pad. So all you're seeing me do is cover up where I made the mistake. So I would share it with you, but this video is already really long. I will share my mistakes. I'm not shy. But you can see how easy it is to fix it. Like if you try something and it fails, just paint over it, no big deal. So we're doing the gray, and then we will add the little tree bottoms. And then we're going to distress the trees a little bit. Now she did some really nice work using a paintbrush and some white paint around the edges. I have already had a negative experience trying to be crafty with the paintbrushes, so I use a chalk pen and I just distress it a little bit, and then I use an ink pad around the tree edges too. So I'll show you that a little bit slower. So you can see I'm just kind of taking a chalk pen and just gently going over the edges, and then I'll smudge it with my finger. And then at first I tried to just use like a dry ink pad, not an ink pad, a dry dauber, but it just kind of erased it. So I decided from that point I would just use my finger. When I distress earrings and stuff with chalk paint, that's what I do. Sometimes you're just looking to soften the edge a little bit and give it a little bit of character, but you don't even really have to distress it if you don't want to. Just leave the colors the same, and I mean, that's fine too. So if you're like, this is just too busy, too much work, that's okay. You could also lightly sand it. You could dry brush white paint. Like there's a lot of things you can do. You can see I really messed up right there. That's okay. But like with decorative painting like this, like the details sometimes make a big difference, but not everybody's going to notice that stuff, and it's not everybody's cup of tea either. So, but you know, it's just an idea of how you can do it. And then after I did this, I just kind of went around the edges with an ink pad, just kind of to give it a little extra character. At least I think I did that on the gray ones. I don't know if I did that on the green ones or not, but it also kind of gives an illusion of a little bit of snow on your trees and that kind of stuff. So I like it, but you don't have to do it. With something that is very detailed like this, like if you were buying these kits and painting them so you could sell them at a craft show or something, you would need to find an efficient way so that you could get them painted. But if you're just making these like with your family and you're just having a good time, then it's a fun way to explore kind of the decorative aspects of painting. You know what I mean? So now we're going to take, this is my distressing ink, little dauber. I got these at Michael's. You can get the full-size ones at places like Blick. I'm totally out of frame. But like you really can't screw this up, right? So you're just going around the edges. I think it helps. It kind of creates some depth. It adds a little bit of a farmhouse feel. You're just distressing it. That's all, just a little bit. And if you overdo it, then you can, I mean, you can wipe it. But I always spray seal things with like a clear satin spray. Anytime I'm using like distressing ink or distressing crayon, like you see where I maybe got too much in the tree and I just took a little paint and just, you know, brush some paint on to smudge it a little bit. No big deal. I like to use distressing ink when I do earrings and go around the edges. Sometimes all I do is go around the edges when I do a very faint white coat, and it really adds some depth. You can't see because I'm out of frame, but that's essentially what I'm doing to this backer that I messed up so bad. And I also am going to take that brown one and do it to the snowman. So I'm going to speed this up because, you know, I don't want to bore you. All right, when it comes time to start gluing your little pieces, I like to use one of those makeup sponges because you can get some glue on there and you can put a very thin layer. So now you can see I slowed it down a little bit. I just put a little bit of the glue, that's art glitter glue, and it's the glue has no glitter in it, so don't let the name fool you. But I just put a little bit on that makeup sponge, dabbed it on the back of that, and then glued it down. You can also cut these little pieces with like 3M backer. Then all you have to do is peel the backer off, less glue. But I wanted to cut all of this all at one time, so I didn't want to fool with that. But if I was making a bunch of these, I probably would do that. So you can see how, you know, there's lots of little pieces in this, lots of little details. You can see how much paint I have on my fingers. But I'm just putting a little bit of that glue on a sponge, dabbing it on there, and then it has enough tack after a few minutes that you can kind of press it down. Maybe not even a few minutes, but I basically put it on there, give it a few seconds, and then when it's a little bit firmer, I'll press down on it and then move on. So obviously this part is time consuming, but sorry, that's our TV. Anyway, so that you kind of get the idea, and I'll speed this up a little bit. But this is the same thing that we would do to apply the bigger pieces. Only the bigger pieces I would probably flip it over and put the glue on the back and then dab the glue a little bit more evenly with the sponge. But this is a good way to make sure you're not putting too much glue down and you're getting it on there evenly, especially for all those little pieces. So just so you can see a visual. All right, so I sped this way up just so you won't be bored. And we're just finishing up our snow tops. We're gonna get our trees on the backer. And then we'll be able to do the decorative work on the snowmen. Some of that I sped way up just because it obviously takes a long time. But I just wanted to, and you don't have to do some of the distressing and all that. You don't have to do that. So these are the snowflakes. We're putting them on with the glue and making sure our trees are in the right place before we glue them down. Then we'll let them dry. Again, the fun part about this is you can do this a little bit at a time, and then it doesn't, it could be like a project you're working on. But once you've done this once and you know how the file works, you know how you want to do it, I mean, you could knock out 3 or 4 of these at a time by just doing it in stages and do it a lot faster than this. So a lot of this was me figuring out what colors I wanted to use, how I wanted to make it work, etc. So again, sorry for the long video, but if you were to do this with a kit, I'd want you to know what to do. Okay, so now it's time to paint the snowmen. I did do some of this with paint markers. And some of it would have been faster to just use paint. But so for the snowman's arms, I just used a brown paint marker. I used a paint marker for all of the hearts. So I just, one night we were watching a movie or something and I just did all the noses. Now I even have some ornaments out here that are not part of the tea light set because I was like, if I'm gonna do noses, I'm gonna do everybody's nose. So I used paint markers quite a bit, and some of that was I got some really cool new paint markers for Christmas and I wanted to try them out and kind of see what the colors look like. But some of the black things would have been faster with just using paint. So these are the little buttons, but the little snowman hats and things that had a little bit more, took up a little bit more space, it would have been faster to use regular paint. But, I used a little bit of both. So I'll speed this up. One thing to add is you certainly don't have to like distress and all of that stuff. You can do solid colors. There are some things that would have been easier to do just regular paint, but again, I was kind of testing out the colors. So I'll speed this up for you just so you can kind of see the process. I also noticed after I put their noses on their face and stuff that I forgot to do the little rosy cheeks, and so I kind of messed that up and tried to fix it later. Oh well, right? You learn a little at a time. But anyway, they're so cute. So we're just slowly working through all the little pieces here. I used paint markers for quite a bit of it, but you could use paint and a small paintbrush. If you saw, I did a video a long time, several months ago, where I used these really tiny detailed brushes. Those would also work great for this. For bigger pieces like this, it would be better to use paint than a marker. I think I was just being lazy. And then I just dotted like the snowman's mouth with a little paint marker. Again, you could use a paintbrush. And then for like the scarves and the hats, I used paint markers. I think some things I would have done differently, but if I didn't like the way something turned out, then I just kind of distressed it with a little bit of a chalk pen and just kind of, if something had too harsh of a line or whatever. So, just enjoy the process, I think. I used the same orange on all of their noses, and I went ahead and painted the nose of a big sign I'm doing while I was at it, just because I had the paint already mixed up. And I'm going to show you a close-up so you can see the finished project. Oops, I forgot about gluing the stand together. I started to use this Star Bond, and then I realized if I positioned it wrong, it would cure right away. So I ended up using the art glitter glue that I use for everything else. You see my Dremel back there. My Dremel I had because I got my pieces too thick with paint that go into the little slots. So I basically just sanded them down a little bit so they would fit better. So I just want to show you one of the tricks I learned from the person who designed this file is before she glues it together, she puts one of the inserts into the slit for both pieces, or no, for one piece, the top piece, so that she ensures that she glues them exactly where they need to go. It's pretty genius, actually. So I'll speed the rest of this up, but I just wanted you to understand why I was doing that. So you can see I've got that top piece already in there. And so that allows me just to make sure that they're perfectly aligned and make sure that that top piece goes into that bottom piece. Hopefully that makes sense. And then just kind of gently put it in place until it adheres, and then just let it dry. So I'll speed the rest of this up, but I just wanted to explain why I was doing that. Okay, so at this point you can see I've kind of been placing the snowmen. I sanded the little edges so they fit in better, and you can see how the little tea lights show in the middle and the snow will go in the front. It's super cute. This was a really fun project to do. All right, I'll show you a close-up now. Okay, so here is the finished product. I have this cute little LED tea lights in the back that I got from Amazon, and I will try to get those on my list. But yeah, this one will be available for purchase if anybody wants it, and I can also sell the blanks if you want to make one yourself. It will take me a little bit to get the blank listing up, so if you're interested, just send me an email. The email's in the description box below. I will have to cut another blank file so I can get some pictures of it, but I just think it's so cute and super cute for Christmas or even just winter, you know. And I am working on a regular, like, year-round one for family that is also personalizable, so you can like engrave your family name, and those can be, you know, either I can paint them, purchase them, or you can actually buy the kit and paint it yourself. So fun stuff to do with the family. Anyway, thanks for watching. I know I had to speed it up a lot, but I appreciate you hanging out.